How long has it been since you rebooted your devices?
It's been 84 years.
Do you remember the last time you turned your phone off? How about your computer? Many people don't actually think to do this because, as long as everything is working, why spend the hassle resetting everything? But if you care about security, privacy, and a device that behaves, you should probably reboot more often. This is a short guide on why regular reboots are worth it and how often to do them. First, rebooting a device can help kill off malware. Why is this the case? Well, because memory plays a big role in many on-device attacks. Attackers often start with code that runs in memory before they try to make the intrusion stick. Some use memory as a foothold as they try to gain persistence on the device, which is when an attacker is able to maintain access to your device even after a reboot. And then there are other attacks, especially targeted attacks, that deliberately avoid dropping files and run entirely in memory to evade disk-based antivirus scanning. When you restart your device, it clears something called volatile memory, which is the data that is lost when power is removed, and it includes things like the RAM. So any code that was only running there disappears, including any malicious code. Now, a reboot will not remove threats that already achieved persistence, and it won't undo any firmware-level implants or fix account compromises that don't involve code on your device. But it does wipe temporary memory-only code and can disrupt attacks that were in progress but hadn't established persistence yet. Second, reboots help clear background junk. Your phone and computer run lots of background processes, and if your phone stays on for long periods, these can get messy. A restart puts everything back in a known good state. For example, apps that have been running for days can start using more and more memory, or hang on to temporary files they're done with, or keep your processor working when it shouldn't. Or you might have some crashed services where parts of the system stop responding even though the device seems fine on the surface. Or you might have stale network sessions, so old Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, VPN, or server connections that didn't close properly. Restarting your device closes every process cleanly, clears the RAM, and relaunches system services. It also forces fresh network handshakes and keys for Wi-Fi, VPN, Bluetooth, and secure websites. And it clears out states that are stuck, so you usually see fewer glitches, more reliable connectivity, and less battery drain. Essentially, it gives your device a fresh start. Next, lots of security fixes, especially operating system and firmware patches, only become active after a reboot. On Android, for example, when your OS updates over the air, they use something called AB Seamless Updates, which ensures that you don't overwrite the currently running system. The new build is written to an inactive slot, and the working system stays intact. This ensures that there's always a bootable system if something goes wrong. Your phone only switches to the updated build after a reboot. On modern Android, many devices use something called virtual AB, which writes updates to snapshots. Instead of duplicating the whole OS, Android copies only the parts that change and keeps the previous version intact. After you reboot into the updated build and it's marked successful, Android merges the snapshot into the main system. Again, this means that if something goes wrong, the device can safely roll back to the previous version. But again, you have to reboot to activate the updated build. Mainline Google Play System updates are also staged, meaning they're downloaded and prepared in the background, but only take effect after you reboot. This approach makes the process safer and prevents updates from interfering with components that are currently running. But these updates don't force an automatic reboot themselves. You have to do it for them to take effect. Now, on iOS, there are two main kinds of updates. First, there are rapid security responses, which are quick, urgent patches. They can install automatically in the background, but only if you've turned on security responses and system files in automatic updates. Otherwise, you have to install them manually. And it's important to note that whether you install them automatically or manually, these updates only take effect after a reboot. If you never restart your phone, these updates remain staged, so installed but inactive. Basically, if you don't reboot your device, you don't benefit from these urgent patches. And then there are full iOS updates, which are the regular OS releases. These always require a restart because they replace core parts of the system. If you have automatic updates on, iPhones can install these overnight when the phone is plugged in and on Wi-Fi, and the phone will reboot itself. But if you have automatic updates turned off, the device won't install or restart on its own. It will wait for you to approve. Now, apps are a different thing. They will generally restart themselves after updating, but system and firmware updates often need a full device reboot before the changes actually take effect. If you skip that step, some protections can quietly sit on the runway for months before they're activated. Another reason to reboot is that a freshly rebooted device has the strongest level of protection. So on modern devices, your data is usually encrypted at rest, and the device requires you to put in a PIN or password to unlock it. These devices house long-term secrets, protected by hardware such as Apple's Secure Enclave and Android's Titan M chip and TEE. When you enter your password or PIN after a reboot, the device uses that hardware along with your credential to derive or unlock the decryption keys for your data. Until you type these things in though, your decryption keys are still sealed inside the hardware and can't be used to open your files. This is the strongest locked state of your device, often called before first unlock. However, after you type in the password or code, the system unwraps or derives the keys. It loads certain keys into RAM so that apps and background services can function and so that your device doesn't keep asking for your passcode every 5 seconds. And even when you lock the phone again after first unlock, some keys may remain available for background functions. And on computers, lock often just means sleep, which keeps RAM powered on and the data inside the RAM intact. This means that if someone gets access to your device after first unlock, keys in memory can be targeted via vulnerabilities or specialized attacks. So, an already active device after first unlock is easier for someone to break into. However, when you reboot your device, RAM is wiped, so any keys or sensitive data that were in memory are flushed. You're back to the strongest locked state until you enter your passcode again. If you're in a situation where someone might gain physical access to your phone or computer, restarting it and leaving it locked makes it much harder for them to get in. Then there are privacy benefits to powering off your device. If it's truly powered down, your device stops sending out data about your activities. Doing a reboot interrupts active radios and background telemetry, and powering off stops the continuous data collection while the device is off. But powering down can also remind you that you don't need to have your device on at all times. Any chance that you can take to turn off your device when you don't need it helps stem the flow of information extracted from it. Often during the day, I like to have my phone on me just in case I need it, but I don't necessarily need to use it at all times. Keeping it powered down reminds me that the tracking device in my pocket only works when I allow it to. Now, there's one caveat I want to mention here. I said if your device is truly powered down, it stops sending out data. But these days, on many devices, there are processes that might still run, even when the device appears to be off. For example, if you opt in to device recovery services, your phone will continue to send out a small, low-energy Bluetooth beacon even after being supposedly powered down to help you find the device. On recent iPhones, the Find My network allows you to locate the phone for up to 24 hours after it's turned off. And on recent Pixels, for example, the network can locate the phone for several hours after it's turned off, as long as Bluetooth and location were on when you shut it down. In both cases, you have to opt in to this functionality first. If you truly want radio silence, you can disable these Find My when powered off features before shutting down the device. Now, how often should you reboot? Well, as often as you want any of the benefits that I've mentioned in this video. At a minimum, after you install any update, reboot your device to make sure that the full update takes hold. But perhaps you can find other opportunities to turn off your devices when you're not using them. For example, you might shut off your computer before bed. You could turn off your phone when you're in a meeting or busy having lunch with someone. Personally, I turn off my phone daily because I don't always feel like I need the device turned on. But I am kind of strange in that I relish any opportunity to unplug the constant data collection machine that I carry in my pocket. I also have a graphene phone, which allows me to have different profiles on the same device that don't run in the background. So I'm effectively shutting off every secondary profile each time I exit it. For most people, I'd say weekly is probably the bare minimum that you'll want to reboot your devices. The NSA has a public guide on mobile device best practices. They recommend powering your phone off at least once a week to clear out temporary data and disrupt certain types of attacks. The NSA know a thing or two about device attacks because, after all, they helped invent most of them, so it's probably good advice. If you're high risk, many labs recommend daily restarts because, as mentioned, certain spyware loses its foothold on reboot and must re-exploit, which increases the chance of detection and failure. Graphene OS has a timer that you can set to auto-reboot your phone after a certain period of inactivity, which puts the device back at rest. This is helpful if you don't want to have to think about it, and also a great security measure against physical brute force attacks of the device. Android also has an auto reboot feature that kicks in after the device has been locked for 3 days, returning it to the before first unlock state where the data is fully sealed. And some Samsung phones also support scheduled auto restarts. Now, rebooting is not a silver bullet. It won't remove persistent threats or root level implants, but regularly rebooting your devices is helpful for improving your security, privacy, and device stability. And what's more is it's incredibly easy. So if this isn't something that's part of your regular routine, you might want to consider including it. Think of it like turning off the lights when you leave a room. It's just a good practice to get into the habit of. NBTV is a project of the Ludlow Institute, a non-profit research and media institute focused on advancing freedom through technology. If you want to support our mission or support our grants program, where we give grants to researchers so that they can uncover hidden surveillance in everyday tech, please visit ludlowinstitute.org/donate. And also visit our merch shop for cool clothes that support the mission as well. Okay, we're done. Time to turn out the lights.